What's up, gang? I was reading a book this morning. One sentence really hit home. It really resonates with me. I thought I would share it because I can't get it out of my brain. I'm sure it might resonate with most of you. This is the book, by the way. And it says, Twitter primarily rewards people who listen and give, not those who ask and take. So I have a personal story I'm going to tell you in a second, but real quick, let me just define the 4 types of people I run into when I'm business networking. I do a lot of business networking here in town. And the 4 types of people are these. You got the givers, the takers, you got the matchers, and the one-uppers. So the givers are the obvious. They come in, they join the group, they're there for the long term. If the group is doing great, they're there. If it's doing bad, they're still there. You can always count on them. They're the core. And they bring value. They give unconditionally. And we refer them a lot of business because our values align. Then you have takers. Takers typically don't join, and they sweep in, take all the business cards, and they put it in a contact management system. They start spamming you with emails, trying to sell you something. They don't work on the actual relationship. And then you have matchers. Thank you, Centricity, Jay and Taz. They taught me what a matcher is. And once I understood what a matcher was, I do know who the matchers are and the people I deal with. Matchers are people where they may not be passing out a lot of referrals, but when you give them one, they feel obligated to give you one back. They want to match it. And then you have the one-uppers. And I love using my daughter's story. This happens if you're a parent, your kids one-up each other all the time. And here's a good example. My daughter wanted to do a wheelie on her bike. And she yanked the handlebars up, got it 1 inch off the ground. She was so excited she did a wheelie. To her, that was a wheelie. She ran, she told me, I ran outside, she showed me. I was so excited for her. I'm like, I can't wait, you gotta tell your brothers and sisters. So later that day, the crew's coming home, and she goes out in the driveway and she, boom, pops a wheelie, maybe this high again. And all of a sudden, they just hammered her. They're like, that's not a wheelie. Da, 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 da. I'll show you a wheelie. This is how you do a wheelie. I can do a wheelie all over the driveway and blah, blah, blah. I can jump and this and that. This poor girl's devastated. She's crying. So I had to reel it all in. Come here, kids. Let's have a conversation. Teach them about what a one-upper is, why we don't do it, and how you're going to end up with no friends if you're doing that in school or at your friend's house. So the reason I bring this up is because I had an opportunity to one-up somebody. And I'm sure I've one-up people not realizing I'm doing it as an adult. We all do sometimes without realizing. Sometimes we get excited about something and don't realize we're one-upping people. But try and be conscious of it. And I was really conscious of it this time. And the guy came into our training facility where we train, and there's a bunch of younger guys next to us. And I think the gentleman I'm training with is probably my age, maybe a little bit younger. And these kids next to us, not kids, they're 18 to 22 years old, and they're one-upping each other about who trains more, who works out more, who lifts weights more, who runs more, everything. It's just on and on and on. And I'm laughing. I'm just listening to these guys, you know? And so he goes, shakes his head, he goes, people in here don't get it. They don't understand. At least I'm getting here a few times a week. You know what? And I got 2 young kids at home. I'm married. I got a full-time job. I got 2 young kids at home. It's not easy. So I could have one-upped right there. And many people may have right there. Well, I got 8, or I got 10, or I got 15, or I got 3. But I didn't, because who am I to judge him? That's what he's dealing with. That's his level of stuff, I'll call it. This is how high his stuff is. I'm not one to judge that. I don't know everything that's going on in his household. There could be other things he's not telling me about, but it's not my job to judge. So instead, even though what he gave it as an example, yes, I'm there and I have experience to offer. So I didn't say I have this. I said, that's really interesting that you have 2 young kids. I go, that must take a lot of time out of your day. He goes, it does. It's a lot of work. I go, are they in sports? I start asking questions. He's like, well, one's in sports. I go, yeah, well, it must be busy. I go, I admire you for getting here because you're here sometimes more than they are, even though they're saying that they're here a lot more. I said, but you're here and you're working. You're working out. You're mentally preparing yourself for life, for family. And because that's a lot of what I talk. People ask me, why do I train so much? People ask my wife, why does she train so much? We train for life because we know that you have to be mentally prepped, physically and emotionally, to absolutely crush it, to operate at 100% with the family, with the business. You got to be able to operate at 150%. So I was explaining this to him without saying I have family. And I was saying, you know, it's really good that your kids see you going out. It's good that maybe you tell them that daddy has to go and do this because he has to really prepare himself mentally, make him stronger emotionally and physically, so I can do a better job at home for my wife and my kids. And my wife and I, we do the same thing. That's why we do it. So I give him all this great little advice and tips, and he's all thought that was cool and all. He never saw it that way, and I learned that way through trial experience, but he doesn't know that. It was like 2-3 months later, he comes in, and he's looking at me with a smirk. Now, where I train, okay, we have some wise asses where I train. So if someone's laughing at you and you know something's up, you start to get nervous. You start looking around the room like, someone behind me, something's about to happen to me, something already happened to me and I'm about to find out. So right away, my guard's up. I'm like, oh my God, something happened. I know something's going on. So he goes, he walks right up to me. He goes, you're such an asshole. I'm like, well, that's not the first time I've heard that, but why am I an asshole? And he said, because you have a lot of kids. I go, okay, but why are you bringing this up? He goes, remember the conversation we had a couple months ago? And we're talking about, having kids and training and working out and all that fun stuff. And I told you that people don't get it. Life hasn't hit them in the forehead and or whatever he said. And I said, okay, yeah, I remember that. He goes, you didn't tell me you had all these kids. I go, well, why would I? Who am I to judge you? He's like, what do you mean? I go, why would I judge you on that? That's what you have. And that's your level of stuff, we'll call it. So your maximum capacity for stuff for the day, that's what you explained to me. Whether mine is here or here, I'm not one to judge. Because I could be here right now, and tonight you might go home and get hit by a car, and now you have broken legs, and yours might be higher. So it's not my job to judge, but I can offer advice. And he's like, oh. So anyway, the point was this. I gave him a lot of valuable information that day, and he liked it. It was a good conversation. But I didn't one-up him, because I will tell you, just like my daughter, when she got one-upped, she got mentally crushed. And that reminds me more than anything as to why I have to be mentally aware not to one-up people. Because I'm sure as an adult, I've one-upped people before. I'm sure I have. Because sometimes the conversation is so exciting, you want to talk about your progression, but you don't mean to one-up people. So anyway, that resonated with me. That one sentence, believe it or not, drew all of that conversation out. And hopefully draw something out for you.